I'm your host, Carmen Stone. I'm speaking with Amelia Barili, who is a distinguished professor from UC Berkeley, a Chancellor Award winner for public service, and who has been teaching yoga, Qigong, and meditation for many years. Right now, I'd like to talk about the fact that Dr. Barili has studied yoga in India in the early 70s in a school that did scientific research in yoga and studied Qigong with old Chinese masters. And you have a distinguished career as a professor at UC Berkeley. How do you combine those three fields, yoga, Qigong, and meditation?
Gracias, Carmen. Thank you so much for the introduction. And yeah, they seem very separate, but really we are always working with the individual, with each one of us, and the continuum of our body, mind, and spirit. So more and more neuroscience is telling us today that we need to work with the rest of the body to be calm, so that then we have better access to the mind. And in education in UC Berkeley, what I did with my students, I taught them a little bit of meditation, ways of relaxing, so that when they needed to do presentations or be there for an exam or whatever, they could calm themselves down with simple breathing practices, or sometimes just feeling the body anchored in the seat. And so on the one hand, I have always wanted to learn what was the connection between the body, the mind, but also from a scientific point of view. So I went to this school, which next year is going to celebrate its 100th anniversary. It was created in 1924, where they were using yoga methods to treat chronic disease, and also they were seeing what the old sages from ancient times have said that were the effects of different postures and breathings and all that. And then they were doing experiments, measuring the heart rate or the breath rate, or to see what were the physical correlations of that. So yeah, so that's the way that is. We think they are not really related, because we think the body goes one way and the mind goes some other way, but the mind is a process that happens through the body. So the more that we are able to ground ourselves and also work with students in experiential ways, not just memorizing, because that's lost immediately. It's a lot of effort and tension, and then they don't remember. Exactly. As soon as they as the exam finish. So yeah, that's how I kind of bring them together even today.
Ah, okay. And so these are wonderful techniques, I'm sure, that you're passing along to the students. How did yoga and Qigong first enter your life?
Oh, well, Qigong, I was, maybe let's first start with yoga. Yoga, I was very interested. I was in Argentina and practicing yoga, and I felt that every time that I practiced, I would feel more relaxed, and I thought, well, I will go to the sources. I will go right to India to see, what do they say about how we can relate better to ourselves and to others, because I thought there was a lot of room for improvement. And when I arrived there, the teacher asked me, why do you come so far away? And I said, well, I want to learn from the scriptures how to relate better to myself and others. And he said, can you be kind when your toe hurts? And it just totally threw me out of balance, because I thought it was just a question of figuring out. That's what I had done in my school very well, and all that. I was 20 years old at the time, in the 70s, early 70s. And so during that whole year, it was working with the body to understand how to inhabit it in a more peaceful way through the different practices of yoga. So in the West, we usually think more of yoga like the asanas, the poses. Now there is a lot of interest in the breath also. But there are more parts to this empirical science of the body, mind, and spirit. That's yoga. Yoga according to the traditional, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, that are like the Bible of yoga, is the calming of the mind, so that we don't take ourselves for being this isolated person, but we realize that we are all connected, and also that we can work with ourselves to experience more peace. And so that's how yoga entered. And then this was in my 20s. Okay. Now let's jump forward to my 40s. I had come to the United States with a Fulbright scholarship to study here in Berkeley with my son, who at the time was 8 years old. And we were far from our family and totally new in the culture, no support whatsoever. I was working, studying a doctorate, raising my child, and there were also some other issues that were difficult, and so I started to get sick. My glands got inflamed, and I went through 3 rounds of antibiotics until somebody said, well, there is this teacher and healer of Qigong in the park. Why don't you come to see her? So I went, and she made me sit down, and she just ran her hands like this, and I thought, what effect is that going to have? She's not even touching me. But I started to cry, not knowing, why I was crying, but there was a lot of energy being released, and my glands went immediately down, and I was healed.
Amazing. That is quite the story.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that was Qigong,
that's
the practice
Qigong.
of Qigong.
Of Qi, yeah, the practice of Qi, your internal energy.
Okay, and so then she was basically using her energy to help your energy, and then to dislodge whatever was going on badly in your system.
Exactly. She was
really
making that congested energy to move along. She also ran her hands along my legs and along my arms, and so afterwards I studied with her. Okay. And I also studied Walgus Qigong and other forms of Qigong, because I really wanted to know how to put together what I have understood as the body, as energy in India, and what China was saying. And they have some similarities about where the vortexes of energy are, and where the rivers of energy run. Okay. And yeah, it was just, those two totally changed my life.
Wow. Well, it sounds like they did, and it's just so wonderful that you've kind of embraced it and now are passing that along to other people and helping them through the study of yoga and Qigong and also meditation. Yeah. Do you think yoga and or Qigong would be right for just anyone, or do you think there are certain people who would benefit more, some people who might be resistant?
Right. Wonderful.
What are the benefits?
Well, in the West, we often think of yoga like the poses, and many people think, well, it's mainly to be more flexible. And that's one of the side effects, that you will maybe feel more flexible. But it's not just for flexible people or young people, or because we work with the body, but we understand that there are these 3 bodies: the physical body, the energy body of the thoughts and emotions, and then an even deeper body of awareness that's observing everything that comes up. And when we get very fearful, we close up, and so that witnessing doesn't happen with a lot of inner space for clarity or anything, or outreaching to others. But yoga can be practiced by someone in a wheelchair. In fact, there is, if you look in the internet, you will see wheelchair yoga, and there are many things you can do, sitting. And it can be done by people that are bedridden. So I think we need to move from this image of yoga just mainly for people that are young and fit. It's for everyone, really. And the same with Qigong. Qigong, usually people think of the movements, which are beautiful. They are a little bit look like Tai Chi from the distance, but in Tai Chi, the movements were developed for self-defense. So although in the West we practice a lot the slow movements, and so it looks more like a meditation. Still the movements, like you have this beautiful movement like this, you are blocking a punch from somebody else initially.
And
that's
that is
a movement.
in Tai Chi.
That's in Tai Chi. But in Qigong, the movements that you have are moving energy along the rivers of energy. So it's a more healing intention. And Qigong is older than Tai Chi. So Qigong is working with your inner energy, your Qi. And within that, there is one part that's more about martial arts, external martial arts, and there are also internal martial arts. And within those external martial arts, there is also Tai Chi. So it's a bigger, but it's coming slowly to the West. Places like Harvard or different kinds of hospitals, and they are now saying, oh yeah, practice Tai Chi, because Tai Chi got to the West first. But you will see more and more as the days come that people will go for Qigong. It's very gentle, and it's very, again, anyone can practice it. You can also practice it sitting down. Some of the movements, it's movements, it's self-massage, it's release points,
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
It really sounds great. Something that I'm sure I will begin to practice after sitting here with you today. So now I understand that you're working with a very famous neuroscientist, Dr. Stephen Porges, and he's the author of polyvagal theory. And looking at studying the applications, the practical applications of how to work with the vagus nerve. There's a lot of interest in this these days, worldwide, locally, regionally, focusing on the vagus nerve. How can we benefit from this, and why is this such a fascination at this time?
Yeah, great question too. The vagus, usually when we think about why do we behave the way we behave, for many years, it was said, well, there is a lot of that's unconscious, and because it's unconscious and automatic, reactions that we have, which are based on the autonomic nervous system, which is one that doesn't have so much to do with our conscious decisions. It's autonomic, automatic.
It's like reflexes.
Right. And it would be the one that's in charge of your digestion, of your heart rate, of your breath rate. And also reactions we have sometimes when we feel fearful, we just close up, or perhaps we disassociate, I'm here, but I'm not here. And so the polyvagal theory tells us how our life changed according to if we feel with a sense of threat or a sense of being more safe. Not because external things have been removed, not the safety of the airports, which in a way makes us also anxious,
Yes.
but an internal safety. So the beautiful thing of the polyvagal theory is that it has, brought the attention on the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve, and it's in a it's part of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the one that has to do with the relaxation response.
Okay.
So now we are having neuroanatomy, we are understanding a little bit about our nervous system, and we are understanding that we do have an influence on that through breath. And that's how it connects with the ancient teachings,
Interesting.
that this breath is a bridge between your nervous system and your mind and your internal states. So then people started going, oh, so you mean that I can do something to hack my nervous system, just to somehow reset it quickly.
Get a grip on it.
Right, get a grip on it. And of course, it's also a question of your lifestyle. I mean, it's not just a question of, okay, well, I'll do, for example, yawning is good for resetting the vagus nerve. But you cannot be yawning all day, right? So, and also there are even now some little gadgets being created. Okay, I put it here, it vibrates, and maybe it helps my vagus nerve. But what if the thing runs out of battery, or it's an external thing you are applying? So what we are teaching with Dr. Porges right now in a course that's called Embodying Safety, Integrating Yoga, Qigong, and Polyvagal Theory, is to teach people these ancient practices of breath, touch, trust, just self-inquiry and working with one's body and our own life, our daily life, to create these platforms of peace, of inner peace, and becoming acquainted with that so that you can come back to it on your own, that you don't need to be always dependent on something external, because we all have this amazing organism, and it's just so rich, and we have it handy. It's just a question of somebody needs to show us how to use it, how to operate the system.
Right.
But
so where is the vagus nerve located in the body, may I ask? Is this something I should be placing my hand over when things get to be a bit tense in life, or is it something that radiates throughout the body?
So it starts in the brain stem up here, and it goes, it's the longest nerve in the body. So it starts here, and then it comes to the heart and the lungs, and it keeps going down, and then it influences also the gut.
Okay.
So it's so important for our digestion, for our circulatory system health, and there is no way that you can directly touch the nerve, of course, but one of the techniques that I'm teaching is in Qigong, we have a point right here, more or less at the height of the nipples, that's called Sea of Tranquility.
Ah, that sounds beautiful.
Sounds great, right?
Yes.
So we rub our hands, and then we put the center of our palms. We all have these healing hands.
Okay.
And we put it here, and already just by touching in this area of the heart and the lungs and the Sea of Tranquility point, you feel like you are landing back in yourself. I mean, we often are busy with our head and, just figuring things in the future or regretting about the past. Come to the present moment. Just put your hands here. Have a few deep breaths. See if when you exhale, you can have a little bit of a longer exhalation than the inhalation. That will also trigger your parasympathetic nervous system and your vagus nerve into a relaxation response. So this is simple, it's handy, we always have it.
That's wonderful, and I tell you, just sitting here speaking with you is calming me down. It's,
Thank you.
Really, you are a calming and gentle soul, and as you were saying, physicians now are really trying to incorporate some of these practices into American medicine, Western medicine, which is wonderful because for so long we've gone straight to pharmaceuticals. And so this is a nice way to branch away from that. So I see this application working well with healthcare and also with self-care, something that we all need to pay, I think, closer attention to, especially now, in a world where we have just gone through and are still making our way through COVID, through different struggles. This is just a wonderful thing to learn about today, definitely. Yes. So, and then this is also really helpful in aiding in overcoming some chronic diseases, I understand. So just so many applications.
Right, because what happens with the chronic disease, I mean, I'm going to refer now to the concept of health in yoga and Qigong and many traditions, world traditions of healing, is that health is a state of balance. And this also coincides with polyvagal theory. We talk about homeostasis, or a state of balance. And then that state of balance is interrupted, or somehow we lose it a bit as we get fearful. And you are right, we are living in the kind of times where there are so many challenges, ecological, political, economical, you name it, and all that is 24/7. So our body, which is prepared to deal with dangers, if there is a danger, there is a quick reaction, and then one should go back into balance. But we live in this state of danger and threat feeling,
so true.
And so it accumulates, and it starts having a lasting effect in the disbalancing of our body. And that's how we get high blood pressure, how we get constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, so many things, even cancer. And so when we talk about individual conditions like cancer or diabetes or these problems, we need to be also looking at the general condition of the individual and try to see, well, what's happening with your life? I mean, where are there places where you can introduce some changes, doable changes, that will start bringing you some little bit of more peace, and then you perhaps can sleep better. And so those are the practices that we are teaching. But you can also, some of it can happen just by remembering, remembering the beginning of the day. Take a little time before you jump out of bed and put your hand here again and take this deep breath and maybe set an intention for the day, what you would like to remember or cultivate. Often we forget during the day, and at night before we go to sleep again, coming back to grounding. So that's how it can help also with chronic diseases, because one of the problems with chronic diseases is that they are chronic because the body has had some symptoms. We take medications to suppress the symptoms, and then the body starts losing its capacity to respond. I mean, because it keeps the body is always trying to get to balance again, and it gives us different kinds of signs, signals.
And now, we've just got so many things coming at us that it's a constant. It's just a constant. And so it's just wonderful to be able to have different techniques to learn these types of things in the world that we're in right now. Can you just expand a little bit more on this technique of grounding ourselves with the practices of the yoga, Qigong, and meditation, and just kind of placing our hands over our heart, placing our hands over different parts of our body to get the calmness and the peace that we're all so desperately needing right now?
Yes. These are simple practices that anyone can include in their daily life. And the one we just did was the two hands resting at the area of the heart and the lungs, and especially there is this acupressure and acupuncture point called Sea of Tranquility, which is the most relaxing point in the body from my point of view.
And I love that.
Yeah, the name and just the touch of the hands, really feel that touch there. And a deep breath. I would say 2-3 breaths so that your body can register the change.
Okay.
And you can do it for as long as 2-3 minutes. During that time you will notice how your body progressively comes down, and when the body comes down, the mind comes down.
Wonderful. Well, just so wonderful. These techniques have helped me today, and I'm sure anyone watching is going to benefit from what Dr. Barili has said. Dr. Barili is retired from UC Berkeley, but she's still doing a lot of community programs online. She's got a Saturday workshop. She's also teaching with an over 55 plus group of people at the UC Berkeley Osher Lifelong Learning Institute in Berkeley and also in Irvine. And so again, if you'd like to know a little bit more about Dr. Amelia Barili, go to www.ameliabarili.com, and that's AMeliaBarili.com, and also find her on YouTube. With the new paradigm.
When I created it, it was a new paradigms, it was the only one, but now you have to put the new paradigms Amelia Barili, because there are other ones.
Okay, so did you get that? The new paradigms, Amelia Barili. Again, I am Carmen Stone. I've been your host, and it has just been my honor to sit here and have this discussion with Dr. Amelia Barili today, and I wish you peace.
Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you.
Open is the stranger's paradise.